going down, everybody? Welcome back to the station. Welcome back to the channel. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy Raygque. You can find me on Twitter at RayGQ. If this is your first time stopping by the channel, welcome. I appreciate you being here, lending me a couple of minutes of your time. Make sure you like the content, subscribe to the channel, check out all the other dope content listed next to you, under you, whatever the case may be. And if you're listening via the podcast or on DynastyLeagueFootball.com, because we do rock with DLF, we are a proud member of the DLF family of podcasts, make sure you subscribe to the podcast channel as well. But in this episode right here, we're going to talk about the Cornerstone rankings. The Cornerstone rankings made some updates to that ranking set. I only fool with the Cornerstone rankings like once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks. But now that the college football season is over and we kind of know which players have declared for the NFL draft, which players said they're going to return for another season, more data from the NFL season, it's time to make an update. And you all let me know how disappointed you were with my ranking of Joe Burrow in the quarterback rankings in the last Cornerstone ranking video. And there have been some changes over there, quite significant changes to the quarterback position, but we ain't talking about QBs today. I'm talking about my favorite position to scout, the wide receiver position. Everyone tells you it's so hard to get wide receivers right. Don't fool with it. I love it. Played DB in college, so I just love the dynamic between the cornerback and the wide receiver position. You see, I got the best defensive player in NFL right now on my chest, Micah Parsons. Shout out to TJ Watt. He's a beast too. But I love the defensive back position. I love the wide receivers, and I think you guys are going to enjoy this episode to take a look at my top 10 Cornerstone wide receivers, looking at the classes 2020, 2021, and let's see if any 2022 prospects slide into that top 10, and I'm sure you all will let me know where I was right, where I went wrong. But without further ado, let's kick it off with the wide receiver one in Dynasty, the wide receiver one in my Cornerstone rankings, none other than Jets, Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver one in Dynasty, the wide receiver one in my Cornerstone rankings. The only players that I have above him, because I do rank according to Superflex leagues, that's what I play in, is Justin Herbert and Jonathan Taylor. Other than that, there's nobody I want over Justin Jefferson, and I love me some CeeDee Lamb, and I think there's an argument to be made for CeeDee Lamb to be the top dog. But what Jefferson is doing, shout out to Player Profiler. All of the data that you see right here is courtesy of PlayerProfiler.com. My guys Cody Carpentier, Matt Kelly, Josh Larkey. I rock with the Roto Underworld team. Y'all knew I used to be a part of the Roto Underworld crew, man, so I got to rock with those guys. But when you're looking at Justin Jefferson, what he's doing this season is ridiculous. All you see are low numbers everywhere. First in the NFL in air yards, 1,418 air yards. Air yard share, 43.4%. Number 2 in the NFL. Deep targets, he's number 1 in the league with 26. 4th in the league in red zone targets. And I mean, look at his fantasy points per game. 20.1 fantasy points per game. Number 3 in the NFL. Yards after catch, he's 5th. Completed air yards, he's 1st. He's got 1,200 damn receiving yards on the season. I mean, what else is there to say about Justin Jefferson? He's a stud. I remember talking about him leading up to the 2020 NFL draft. Go check the receipts. I said Justin Jefferson was the discount version of Jerry Jeudy because everybody was all over Jerry Jeudy. The route running, the shiftiness, the yak ability. Not only was he was a discount. You didn't have to pay as much as you did for Jerry Jeudy in rookie drafts, but he was so much better, is so much better than Jerry Jeudy. Justin Jefferson is a star amongst studs. The top wide receiver in my Cornerstone rankings. And for those of y'all don't know where I house all of that shit, all my Cornerstone rankings right here, patreon.com/prospect talk. Jordan Backus runs this database. I just get to play in it. So if you want like access to that, all the Devy stuff, we've got 2022 ADP, Superflex rookie mock drafts. We're working that around the clock. So we're doing a lot of dope stuff over there with the Prospect Talk crew. But at wide receiver number 2, let's go to Big D and talk about that man, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, absolute monster. I live here in Dallas, Texas. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch. And just a tick below Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, although the offensive quarterback position, even though Kirk Cousins is playing probably the best football of his career, I have more faith long-term in Dak Prescott. But, it's hard to argue with what Justin Jefferson is doing, and I think he should be at the top spot. CeeDee Lamb balling this year as well. He's got 829 receiving yards, 16th in the NFL, averaging 16.6 fantasy points per game, which is 11th in the NFL. You're seeing, Dallas throws the ball a ton. They're 7th in the NFL in team pass plays per game, which bodes well for a player like CeeDee Lamb. Love to see his targets come up just a little bit. He's 20th in the NFL, 90 targets. He did had to miss, damn near an entire game and a half because of a concussion this year. But you see what he's doing. Receptions, 19th in the NFL. Unrealized air yards, 394. And what CeeDee Lamb does so well, we saw him do it at Oklahoma, is create after the catch, 314 yards after the catch, which puts him at number 11 in the NFL. I mean, Lamb is still going to continue to grow, get better, develop more chemistry with Dak Prescott. Absolute star, absolute stud. For me, my number 2 wide receiver in my Cornerstone rankings, one CeeDee Lamb. Now let's talk about a rookie who is killing it right now. 958 yards on the season. I'm talking about Cincinnati Bengals star wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase. Right before I went live on this show, since the inception of NFL time, there have been 23 wide receivers who have cracked 1,000 yards in their rookie season. 23, that's it. In their rookie season, we've got 23 guys cracking 1,000 receiving yards at minimum. Most notably, the 2014 class had the most. They had 3 guys, Kelvin Benjamin, Odell Beckham Jr., and Mike Evans. They had 3 guys from the 2014 class go over 1,000 yards in their rookie season. So far right now, you're looking at about 4 or 5 players who can do that from 2021. Ja'Marr Chase leading the way with 958 yards. Jaylen Waddle, I think he's got like 849. Devonta Smith, 701. Kyle Pitts, 709. And I think Elijah Moore is right there at about 600 receiving yards. So when you're talking about special, this 2021 class is so special, led by this man, Ja'Marr Chase, who right now is what's insane about what Ja'Marr Chase is doing. And this isn't Chase's numbers. Those are CeeDee Lamb's. Here we go. What's insane about what Ja'Marr Chase is doing, 958 yards, right? Number 5 in the NFL, only 55 receptions, which is 23rd in the NFL. He's got 1,080 air yards, puts him top 15 in the NFL. 100% route participation when he's on the field. He isn't doing any blocking. He's going downfield. 6 in deep targets with 20 of those bad boys. 5 in the NFL in touchdowns with 8. 16.5 fantasy points per game, which is 12th in the NFL. Completed air yards. Look at this. Just 659 completed air yards. Yak, 299, 17th in the NFL. Target share, look, 24.2%, 20th in the NFL. So, Ja'Marr Chase has to share the field with 2 other talented wide receivers, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, which, you look at Chase and think if he were in a situation like Justin Jefferson where, essentially it's him and one other guy and, he's the primary target 10 out of 10 times, probably see those numbers go even higher. But Ja'Marr Chase, outside of some crazy injury happening, which we never, knock on wood, we never try to speak into existence, he's a lock to go over 1,000 yards. His receiving yard prop coming into the season was right at 1,000 yards. I think it was like 999.5 yards over under for Ja'Marr Chase. He's a lock to hit that. So go ahead and add the 24th wide receiver to crack 1,000 yards in their rookie season in NFL history. Ja'Marr Chase, my number 3 wide receiver in my Cornerstone rankings, absolute stud. All right, wide receiver 4, same class. Another pick right after Ja'Marr Chase, number 6th overall wide receiver, and I'm talking about Miami Dolphins wide receiver Jaylen Waddle. I believe I had him as wide receiver 3 in the 2021 class, and right now he's playing. There's an argument to be made that he's playing as the best wide receiver from the 2021 class. I'm not going to go as far as to say I prefer Jaylen Waddle to Ja'Marr Chase because right now he is the only ticket in town in Miami, but what he's doing, the production is insane. He's going to crack 100 receptions as a rookie. He's 2nd in the NFL right now with 86 receptions. 2nd in the league. 8th in the league in yards after the catch. His target share, 23.8%. That's 21st in the NFL. He's 5th in the league as a rookie in targets with 116 targets. I talk so much about Devonta Smith being a lock for 100 targets. Jaylen Waddle has already exceeded that. He's playing inside at the slot, number 10 in the league, 322 snaps from the slot, 45.8%, and that's what I kind of projected him to be coming out of Alabama. He was a slot guy, but he's very dynamic, explosive, and the only thing that's lacking with Jaylen Waddle is the touchdowns, right? He's only got 5 touchdowns on the season, which puts him, top 20 in the NFL. But if he can convert a couple of more of those yards, those receptions for touchdowns, it'd be wheels up for Jaylen Waddle. What you don't see him doing is going down the field a lot, right? 509 completed air yards, unrealized air yards, 224, which is 65th in the NFL, averaging 15.3 fantasy points per game. Once again, all these stats provided by PlayerProfiler.com. You look at Waddle and you want to, I made the comparison to he's the closest thing to Tyreek Hill since we've seen Tyreek Hill come to the league. He's not being utilized like that, and a lot of people want to see him go down the field more, but what he's doing is working for Miami, so I don't see any reason why they would change that. Jaylen Waddle, my wide receiver 4 in my Cornerstone rankings. Now, big shakeup, number 5, making the leap up for me, big jump up, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. A lot of people, even myself for a minute, I was like, damn. Ja'Marr Chase comes in, he takes over, he's the alpha, everybody else is the beta, nobody else is. I think Cincinnati has 2 alphas. They have 2 alpha wide receivers, and what we've seen T. Higgins do over the past couple of weeks, I believe he's like the wide receiver, he's like a top 2, top 3 fantasy wide receiver over the past couple of weeks. You just see how much talent T. Higgins has, and I believe I put out an episode during the draft 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, T. Higgins, Apex Predator. I loved him at Clemson. Those big body wide receivers that can separate, that can go get it. Huge catch radius. That's T. Higgins. He made a catch on the sideline last Sunday. It shows just how big, how massive he is in his catch radius, right? T. Higgins right now only 20th in the league in fantasy points per game, 14.6. His advanced numbers and analytics don't look nearly as good as a Chase, right? Only 26 in the league in targets with 82. Target share, though, look at this, 25.5% for T. Higgins, sharing a wide receiver room with Ja'Marr Chase, which is 14th in the NFL. When he's on the field and Joe Burrow's targeting him, good things are happening for T. Higgins. He's 25th in the NFL in receptions, 25th in receiving yards. T. Higgins is a fantastic freaking wide receiver. And for me, there's only a couple of guys that I'd rather have over T. Higgins, and we talked about him. Jaylen Waddle, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Ja'Marr Chase, as far as the Cornerstone rankings go. And once again, if you're jumping in the middle of the damn show, I only look at 3 years of subsets for our Cornerstone young players. It's not including DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin and Devontae Adams, 2020, 2021, and 2022. So let's go back to the 2021 rookie draft pool and talk about my man, the Slim Reaper, Devonta Smith. The man who many people said was too little to play in the NFL, but he is proving everybody wrong in an anemic passing attack offense. I mean, Philly, we thought Philly was a good landing spot last year with Carson Wentz. That was a failure. Jalen Hurts, we were hoping for more progression from him as a passer. Hit and miss with Jalen Smith. But Jalen Hurts, but Devonta Smith, what I really, really like about what he's doing right now, he's got a 22.9% target share. He's got 81 targets on the season. The route participation, 91%, stop making him block. I understand, good blocker, stop making him do that shit. But let's look at this. Air yards, 10th in the NFL, 1,163 air yards, averaging 87.4 per game. Air yard share, when they're throwing deep, Devonta Smith is getting the looks. He's 6th in the NFL, 38.9%. His average target distance, top 10 in the NFL. Number 8 with 14 yards, his average target that he's receiving. Deep targets, he's got 19 of those bad boys, 10th in the NFL. So the routes and the yards that matter, Devonta Smith is at least getting targeted on those plays, right? He's 6th in the NFL in unrealized air yards with 602. He's got 50 receptions, 701 yards. And I talked about, these wide receivers from, cracking 1,000 yards in their rookie year. We've got a good chance that 4 guys from the 2021 class do it, which would be the most in NFL history, potentially even 5. Ja'Marr Chase, Devonta Smith, Kyle Pitts, Jaylen Waddle, and Elijah Moore all have a chance to go over 1,000 yards this season, which would be the most by an individual class in NFL history. This class is special. Devonta Smith, had to bump him down a little bit. Love my man, but right now I would prefer a Jaylen Waddle and, of course, Jamar Chase to Devonta Smith. But the fact that he's probably going to go over 1,000 yards along with Chase and Waddle and Kyle Pitts and Elijah Moore just lets you know how damn talented this 2021 rookie draft class is. Speaking of the other Moore, Elijah, here we go. Coming in as wide receiver 7 for me in my Cornerstone rankings. Elijah Moore's been on a tear over the past couple of weeks, averaging 12.6 fantasy points per game, which is 29th in the NFL. Now, you're not going to see a lot of numbers right here that stand out. I think the most glaring one for me that's just impressive and shocking, deep targets. He's 6th in the NFL on deep targets. You got a young quarterback who's a gunslinger, he's got a big arm, he's going to launch it down the field. The Jets are averaging 38.6 pass plays per game, which is 6th in the NFL. A lot of that because they are down quite a bit. They're losing, so they have no choice but to throw the ball. And Elijah Moore, having barely played early in the season, to be 6th in the NFL on deep targets, pretty damn impressive for this young stud wide receiver. Elijah Moore, you might want to go ahead and start to try to acquire him before it's too late. Again, this 2021 rookie wide receiver class, fantastic. Elijah Moore checking in as wide receiver number 7 for me. At WR8, here we go. Michael Pittman, USC wide receiver, having a sophomore season breakout as the undisputed number 1 in Indianapolis. And he is taking advantage of every opportunity that's given to him, man. He is balling. 12th in the NFL in targets, 11th in receptions with 67, 11th in receiving yards with 882, completed air yards, 8th in the NFL. When they're throwing deep, he's catching the damn ball, 632 completed air yards. Listen, Michael Pittman Jr., big-bodied wide receiver, getting down the field. I know a lot of people were a little weary because he was a senior and all this other shit. Don't worry about that. He's a beast. Top 20 in the NFL in target share, averaging 14.6 fantasy points per game, 18th in the league in touchdowns with 5. That will come. Michael Pittman Jr., still not getting the proper respect and just due that he deserves. He's about to crack 1,000 yards on the season. Probably finish somewhere 1,300 yard receiver in year 2. Really impressed with Michael Pittman Jr., my wide receiver 8 in my Cornerstone rankings. And we're going to go to wide receiver 9, and we are going to dive into the first rookie prospect, the potential rookie, Treylon Burks from Arkansas, coming in as wide receiver 9, the big 6'3", 225-pounder out of Arkansas, SEC first team, all-world wide receiver. Should have been a Biletnikoff Award, at least mentioned for the Biletnikoff Award, but he wasn't because he plays at Arkansas and the college award system is broken. But Treylon Burks projected to run. There are people saying he could crack sub 4.3. If he does that, people are going to lose their minds. Right now, he is my unquestioned, undisputed wide receiver 1 in the 2022 class. And when you look at what he's done this year against all wide receivers from 2022, 2023, 2024, Treylon Burks sits atop all of these guys in yards per team pass attempt, weighted dominator rating, and dominator rating. And for those of y'all who don't understand or know what that is, weighted dominator rating is the percentage of a team's receiving production. 80% of the team's receiving yards, 20% of a team's receiving touchdown. He's top in the country with 43.7% weighted dominator rating. That is good. The darker the red, the better, and that red is blood. Deep, old, stained blood red for Treylon Burks. 46.1% dominator rating, 50% of its team's receiving yards, and 50% of the team's touchdowns. That's the percentage of Treylon Burks, what he's doing on the season. I believe he's over 1,100 yards receiving on the season on an Arkansas team that KJ Jefferson is okay, but, not really that good. We'll see what KJ Jefferson turns out to be, but look at the names on this list. Wan'Dale Robinson, probably going to be a day 2 pick in the NFL draft. Jamison Williams out of Alabama, probably going to be a top 15 pick. He is absolutely destroying college football and is a lock to be a first-round pick in the 2022 NFL draft. And I know a lot of you might say, Ray, why on earth would you take a rookie over a Jerry Jeudy, over a Rashod Bateman, over a Kadarius Toney, over a Laviska Shenault? because I believe that this rookie is special. And with these rankings, we're projecting forward. If you're asking me right now, would I rather have Brandon Ayuk or Treylon Burks 1-for-1? It may piss you off. It may not make sense to you, but I want the talent of Treylon Burks. If you've never seen him play, just go YouTube scout his highlights. I want Treylon Burks over all of those guys. I believe he is the second coming of a Josh Gordon mixed with Andre Johnson. I know a lot of people use the Andre Johnson comp for him. Josh Gordon without the off-field issues was my comparison, has been my comparison for Treylon Burks. I think he's an absolute superstar, first-round draft capital incoming. I want Treylon Burks on my roster. He's my wide receiver 9 in my Cornerstone rankings. And rounding out the top 10, I struggled with this. I thought about Brandon Ayuk. I thought about having Jerry Jeudy here. This really is just, it comes down to projecting forward who I believe this player can become, what I think his quarterback situation can evolve into, and that's what it is. Because the analytics are, there's not a lot to talk about. He hasn't been super productive this year, and he plays on an offense that is kind of up and down as far as consistency from the quarterback position. But I'm talking about Rashod Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens. Rookie wide receiver Rashod Bateman is my wide receiver 10 in my Cornerstone rankings. Yes, over Jerry Jeudy. I went back and forth with that one. Over Brandon Ayuk. I thought about putting Drake London in at this spot, but I can't do it. Rashod Bateman, I still believe in the talent of Rashod Bateman, what he can become. And let's take a look at his stuff right now. So, I mean, there's not a lot to get encouraged by. One red zone target, 15.9% target share, 7.9 fantasy points per game. He missed half of the season due to injury, but it's just believing in the talent of Rashod Bateman and him taking over as the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore next year. It's probably not going to happen this year, but going into the 2022 NFL draft season, I do anticipate Rashod Bateman being the alpha in that offense, and I believe in the talent. We'll see how it plays out. I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts. So one more time, let's just run through my top 10 in my Cornerstone rankings for the wide receiver position. Got Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Jaylen Waddle, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Elijah Moore, Michael Pittman Jr., Treylon Burks, and Rashod Bateman. Got a lot of other players in there for the wide receivers, running backs. We're working through all that other good stuff. But there it is. Cornerstone ranking updates for the wide receiver position. Probably not going to touch these until January. We'll let the rest of the NFL season sort of play itself out. Probably really dive into this after the NFL regular season is over. We'll take a look at the running backs, the quarterbacks. Probably should have lumped tight ends into the wide receivers, but oh well, no big deal. But I appreciate y'all tapping in, stopping by, lending me a couple of minutes of your time. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed it, press the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a rating, a review on the podcast, and make sure you're tapped into all the other dope stuff that's coming out on this channel. I appreciate you stopping by. Stay tapped in, stay tuned. We'll be back with more content later this week. I'm out of this thing. Peace.